I call this April 8th work session to order at 6 p.m. on April 8th. Administration, would you like to give us a, not for the work session, but thank you for offering. We'll catch you next time. Would you like to offer an overview of our upcoming presentation?
Sure, yeah, I'll save most of my administrative comments for the regular meeting, which will start at 7. But as we've shared in previous meetings and have tried to get the word out before and have had some workshops with the community, the Kenai Peninsula Borough is putting together a Safe Streets and Roads for All comprehensive safety action plan. And so there's been quite a bit of that process so far, reaching out to the public to get feedback, concerns, comments about transportation corridors in and around Borough, specifically Seward. Seward's one of the partner cities of this grant process, and they've got their first draft of the plan available for public review and comments. And so, and I think they'll mention it during the presentation, but that's open for the entire month of April for public comment, and they've asked to come speak to the various partner city commissions to provide an update to that process. And so we've got a Teams presentation with our presenters. And so I think can Juan hear me?
Juan,
yeah, Danny, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you loud and clear. And
okay, great.
So yeah, we can turn it over to you and get the TV turned on so that we can see the presentation. All right. Yep. Your screen's on, and so yeah, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Danny. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for going over some of the slides that I'm going to present. It's a good warm up. I'm Juan Lee with R&M. I think I know a lot of you from the work we've done in Seward, and we're back. We talked to you before, and I will say that Seward has the highest participation rate in this KPP Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. So kudos to everyone in the community. We're excited to share with you where we are now. The draft plan is out for public review, and I'll focus on some of the recommendations that we have for Seward as one of the partner cities, like Danny said. I've got with me today my colleague Malia Walters and Michael Baker. Michael Baker has been supporting us on the Safety Action Plan with data analysis, recommendations, community engagement, survey analysis, and it's culminated in the last year to get us to where we are today. So with that, I'm going to go through the slides, and then we'll have time for questions, any comments. It was a little bit quiet earlier to hear the other members, so we may need a little help kind of clarifying any questions or comments. So with that, I am going to turn off my camera so that my connection is better. Okay. So, Safe Streets for All of Us is a federal grant by the U.S. DOT that the Kenai Borough has received last couple of years. We started working on this last year with the borough and all the partner cities, 5 partner cities. And we're excited to be back. Thanks for having us. So why do we need a safety action plan, a comprehensive safety action plan? This slide encapsulates the 5-year trend of fatal crashes between 2018 and 2022. This is borough-wide. There have been 44 fatal crashes and over 157 serious injury crashes. And then we have the different modes, motorcycles, pedestrians, and bicycle crashes. So this is why we need a safety plan. The crash trends for fatal injuries or fatal crashes have trended up, so that's problematic, and this is exactly why we're here developing the plan for the borough. Serious injuries have trended down just a little bit from 2018 to 2022. It's 5 years of data that we've been able to see from the troopers, emergency services, DOT data, and all the high injury network roadways that. And so the high injury network is the map that you see here, all the yellow, and that has been identified as as areas of severe and fatal injuries. And so the statistic here is that 74% of the fatalities within the borough and serious injuries occur on just 4% of these roadways in the borough. So that's a very significant statistic and why we're here today, presenting back to you. So a little about community outreach. Danny mentioned earlier, we've been to your community a couple of times to do public outreach, public meetings. We did a survey. We're back here today to present to you the draft plan to give you an overview, and we hope you get an opportunity to review the plan as well. Public comment is open until April 30th. We'll take written comments. You can call us. You can send them into the borough directly, or you can email one of the project members. The website does have a great comment form that you can fill out, and then we will as well. We've done 6 in-person public workshops. We had virtual public workshops in the last week or so. We have a steering committee that is represented by all the partner cities and some other agency stakeholders. We're here tonight, and we're doing a whole roadshow, a virtual roadshow of advisory planning commission starting tonight, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if you look at this photo, you might recognize a couple of the people, including Danny. This is our first public workshop in Stewart that we had a very high turnout when we were identifying issues and the critical corridors that had the highest recommendations for closer look at or for review and consideration for the priority projects within the plan. Okay, so the plan is made up of program and process recommendations as well as projects, countermeasures, and priority locations, areas that we're going to focus on that we recommend. There's 20 priority locations, and within the plan, there are also policy recommendations, educational recommendations, and process recommendations, and they're all complementary to each other, as well as site-specific to each of the priority areas. So I think this is very interesting for Stewart is the emergency evacuation routes. So within the borough, there's severe natural hazards such as earthquakes, floods, wildfires, and severe weather events, for example. 73% of the borough experiences climate and disaster risk burden, according to the USDOT Explorer tool. And the communities within the borough, some of them have higher yearly financial loss due to climate-related hazards such as flooding, severe weather events, as defined by FEMA. Additionally, some of the communities within the borough have increased severity and frequency, heavy rains, wildfires, of course, and then erosion in coastal areas. So emergency evacuation routes are really essential to facilitate a swift and organized response to protect life and property. The borough also has a lot of single access roads, which means that roads are only connected with another road once. And so this limited connectivity through the transportation network really exacerbates some of the evacuation challenges.
Excuse me,
having a
one.
connected network.
Excuse me, one.
Multi-access roads
One. Hello.
other benefits as well.
One. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're having some
Yeah.
technical difficulties here. Could you pause so we can make
Yeah.
this? It's not showing full screen, and it's really distracting. So could you give us just a few minutes to get this fixed?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for that. Thank you.
On your end, you're gonna have to go full screen if you know what I'm talking about.
Let me, let's see, view.
She should just hit the big box, right?
There's the one right at the corner.
Is that better?
No. Box on it.
There you go.
With Teams,
that
that's
is-
how it's gonna be. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah,
okay.
that's as big as it's gonna get. We're not gonna lose those top.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, is that better
All right.
for the audience
Yeah.
and the video? Okay,
Okay,
thank you so much.
Yeah, is that better? I have it as full screen display. Is it showing something different?
It's fine right now, thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I was just talking about emergency evacuation routes, which is something that was part of our safety plan that the Kenai Borough really wanted inclusion. And I think it makes sense too later when I show some of the maps of the recommended priority projects. The other focus and strategies for solutions for KPP are the school safety zones. Some of our faster highways are through safety school zones, such as, well, actually the school district, in the borough, there's a total of 42 schools, and the majority of them are physical schools which are located on the road system. And of those 42 schools, there are 17 Title I schools. 4 of those Title I schools are actually located on the high injury network, and they are within a quarter mile of the high injury network. So it's a really important statistic for inclusion in the school safety zone analysis for this plan. The other issue here that we've identified as part of our outreach in talking to stakeholders and emergency access and evacuation route agencies is that the Eastern Peninsula Emergency Service Area is really critical. It is outgrowing what is currently provided by volunteer response teams located in Bear Creek, Cooper Landing, Hope, and Moose Pass. And so as summer traffic continues to grow and more people travel to Seward through the Kenai for tourist activities, recreation, fishing, hunting, festivals, music festivals, all of these things, they add a lot more travelers onto within the corridor, within the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and long stretches of the Sterling and the Stewart highways are narrow, they're 2-lane roads, there's constricted or non-existent shoulders, and that makes it difficult for vehicles to pull over to allow emergency vehicles to pass. Sometimes we understand from talking to stakeholders and emergency responders that helicopters are often deployed as a precaution, just to ensure quick response times and post-crash care. But these helicopters, they have to find suitable places to land, and so sometimes it's challenging if the roadway corridor is not wide enough, it's congested, there's beautiful scenery, but with that comes rugged topography, and there's low numbers of vehicle pullouts with an adequate space for these landings, emergency response landings. And of course, we have winter, and so in the winter, this can be complicated by, highway maintenance in some areas or lack of, and then this sometimes results in some of the pullouts that are used for emergency response to be covered in snow or unavailable for the helicopter landings and response. Okay, so there's a lot of words on the next couple slides, but I will just say that the comprehensive nature of this plan is related to educating people, helping to understand behaviors that help to make traveling home safer. Enforcement is important, campaigns for safety, just understanding that within the Kenai Borough, there's lots of different modes of transportation, including ATVs, off-road vehicles, snow machines, bicycles, walking. So there's a host of different users. Some of them are vulnerable, different modes of vehicular transportation that needs to be considered for the borough. Safe vehicles, this has to do with the actual education of vehicle systems, the use of safety devices such as car seats and helmets that help prevent crashes or severity of crashes if they are to happen. Safe speeds, a speed management plan is one of the recommendations, and actually we've gone through this plan with the Department of Transportation, and they have, using this plan, they're able to apply for grants that will help them fund a speed management study for the borough. So that's a positive thing that came out of having a plan drafted. Safe roads. So I'll go into some of the priority recommendations, which is included in this, but just design policies, implementation, funding, developing a complete streets plan for the borough as well as complete streets plans for each of the communities. And then post-crash care, I talked about that. That's a response, emergency response. The faster that
that a crash can be responded to, the likelihood of medical care quickly is going to result in more positive recovery for crashes. Okay, so we're going to get into the proven safety countermeasures. So countermeasures is the words that are being used as part of these SS4A safety grants to make recommendations for locations that are identified as priority with data-driven, high crash or killed or seriously injured areas for all different users, especially vulnerable road users. And they address at least one safety focus area, such as speed management, intersections, roadway departures, that's where the roadway design doesn't keep people on the road during a crash, and then, of course, pedestrians and bicyclists, so non-motorized users. And these came from FHWA's guidance. Okay, so there's 5 different sections I mentioned of the proven countermeasures. These are just some of the icons that we've used to help be more visual and helping to understand what the countermeasures are. So once I'll bring up the map, and we'll have a legend, and included in the legend is all these different countermeasures in these different groups. So there's speed management, intersections, including different intersection treatments, design treatments. That could be a traffic signalized intersection. It could be a roundabout, a corridor management plan. For speed management, that could be a speed feedback sign so that you know what your speed is as you're driving through a corner and it's flashing at you. Speed cameras, speed humps. For roadway departure, that could be a number of things. There's 5 different things here. Enhanced delineation for curves, so just better education and notification if a curve is coming up to help travelers mitigate or manage their speed as they're approaching. Wider lane edges, more shoulders, and then safety edges to keep drivers in the corridor. And then, of course, we have a whole section on pedestrians and bicycles. Bicyclists, these are the most vulnerable of our users of our corridors. And then cross-cutting is like specific design elements or recommendations such as lighting, high-friction surface treatment, road safety audit for some critical corridors. For pedestrians and bicycles, of course, the biggest comment we heard was there's lack of wide shoulders or facilities that would separate pedestrians and bicyclists in roadways from vehicles. Okay, so the scoring criteria. So this this started with USDOT and then Federal Highway, so that's where the criteria comes from. And then we used our crash data analysis, which I showed at the beginning of the presentation. We worked with the steering committee and the Kenai-Peninsula Borough project team. And so we scored all the projects based on this criteria and gave points to each one of the criteria. And then with that, we came up with 20 priority locations. I think there were over 100, and we came down to 20, ensuring that each of the partner cities had at least one project, and then the areas were prioritized based on highest number of crashes or killed or seriously injured locations that were identified through the data. So with that, these are the steps that I just talked about, and the projects were also compared with the DOT STIP project. So there's a project already in the DOT statewide transportation improvement program. We would remove it from our project, not so that there wouldn't be redundancy. And then if there were other projects were recommended in the corridor that were selected, we would also remove that just to make sure that there was better coverage with the different types of projects throughout the borough. And then, so we came down to our top 20, and they are prioritized in order of the analysis and the prioritization that I just talked about. So with that, the yellow is, this map shows like where the corridors are. Number 1 is in the Kenai, and I will show that Kenai Spur Road, Kenai Spur Highway, and Seward, the Seward Highway through Seward is prioritized as 17 out of the 20. and I have a slide on that next, so I can go into detail and then we can discuss. Each of the recommended countermeasures had a low cost, a medium cost, and a high cost based on the type of countermeasure that was recommended. We had our engineering team help us with cost estimates and prioritization of countermeasures as well. Okay, so this is probably the slide you're most interested in, which is priority 17 in the draft plan. It's the Seward Highway 3-year community starting at Hemlock and ending at Dairy Hill Lane. So this, if you look at this slide, it has the crash history on here. So total 19 total crashes just within this corridor in the last 5 years that we had data for. And the crash modes were 19 from motor vehicles, 0 for bikes, and 0 for pedestrians. But 1 killed or seriously injured, and then 4 injury. The other 14 crashes within the 19 crashes had no injury. What isn't captured is some of the near misses that anecdotally we had heard about from community members through the survey when we did the public workshops. But there's definitely enough data in this corridor to recommend it as priority number 17. So the countermeasures we're recommending include wider lane edges. We're recommending something called an RRFB, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. And what this does is it helps the cars see when a pedestrian needs to cross. So it's a little more visibility. We're also recommending a raised median and pedestrian refuge island, higher crosswalk visibility, a grade-separated pedestrian crossing with wayfinding. So there is a pedestrian crossing here, but a lot of people told us through the survey that they didn't know where it was. Even having walked the corridor, that the visibility of it was not as clear as it could be for walkers and bikers. And so wayfinding signage would be a countermeasure that would help identify that area as a safe crossing. Sight distance improvements just for the side streets and intersections so that as you're approaching the Seward Highway from the side that you have better visibility of traffic. So that as you're entering the intersection, it's a little safer for you to make the turn. And this is roughly milepost 2 of the Seward Highway here. So I can stop here. We can have a discussion. I just wanted to show there's a couple more priority projects so you can see how that compares to your priority project through Seward.
Thank you, Juan. What are the wishes of the commissions? Would you like to give some feedback right now? Or should we open it up to the audience for feedback?
Yeah, to the audience, and I wouldn't mind hearing also about the other areas.
Okay. Commissioner Charbonneau would like to open it up to the public, but also hear about the other areas. Would anyone in the public wish to comment on this plan at this time?
On this specific one, from Hemlock to, I didn't catch what she said.
To Dairy Hill Lane?
Dairy Hill Lane.
Dairy Hill Lane.
Right.
Okay, we have a bike path all along the east side of that section. I don't know where there's a marked crosswalk across the Seward Highway. I know that
The underpass.
underneath one
There's an underpass.
that's there, but there's, from what I've heard over my years here, is that the Seward, the Department of Transportation does not want to put crosswalks across the Seward Highway. Even, they finally put one down by the Sea Life Center going to the parking lot, which was a win, a big win. But I'm just a little confused why we would worry so much about the pedestrian part when we have that big bike path for people to walk on.
Did you hear that one?
I did. Thank you, Carol. That's a great question. So there was a couple things there, and if I can address a couple things that would be helpful. So there is You're correct, there is a pathway, but we did hear that crossing the Seward Highway was necessary in some sections. So we're recommending not just a regular crosswalk, but a flashing beacon so that if a pedestrian needs to cross, they could push a button, a light right here to cross over at Sea Lion, and that would alert vehicles to stop. But they're visible. There's a flashing light, and the vehicles approaching can stop so that they can see the pedestrian or the biker to cross. Along with that, there would be higher visibility at that crossing with a light, with a crosswalk, like a light pole, for example, not a signalized intersection, but a light pole so that it was more visible in the dark of the crossing.
You mean?
So we're not recommending just adding paint to cross the Seward Highway there, but something very high visibility, alerting vehicles. Right here is there is an underpass, a grade separated pedestrian crossing, and with that we're recommending some wayfinding and some signage to alert pedestrians that that is the safest place to cross there, not necessary to create new at-grade crosswalks there. So I hope that's clear. And then this is a pedestrian refuge, and that is something that we recommend as a demonstration project just to see how well that works in real life before it's built. DOT has seen these recommendations and has supported what we've recommended so far in draft. And so I think your comments, either supporting or maybe, adding more comments to whether or not these recommended countermeasures might work, it would be helpful for the plan and for the Department of Transportation.
So you stated that DMV has approved it?
DOT.
DOT approved putting a
Yes, the DOT
stoplight there?
has reviewed the recommendations in this draft
Well, the
plan.
flashing light, she said, so that vehicles could see that someone wanted to cross and stop.
Like
Yeah.
a bar, it looks like a bar light that just signifies that somebody's waiting to cross and that you should slow down or stop, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Not a traffic stoplight.
I was wondering, is it akin to the one that's at Indian, where they just put in there and it's a red flashing light? It's blinking all the time, but people are going through
Yellow.
there. Is it yellow or red?
Yellow blinking means you yield. But you
No, I know,
keep
but at
running.
Indian, have you guys noticed that?
Yeah.
I thought it was always blinking red. And I was wondering, is that what this beacon light is? I guess we want to understand how it works. And then is Sea Lion Drive the only
Yes.
place that you're looking at doing this? Or is there other parts between Sea Lion and the end of and into town?
There's two, so Sea Lion Avenue and right here, Dairy Hill Lane is the other
Dairy Hill.
RRFB. So these are specifically for pedestrians. You would push it and then it would flash. Otherwise, if there were no pedestrians trying to cross, traffic would just flow as normal.
Okay, so
What you're talking about in Indian is a overhead flashing light with an arm that comes out. That's different than what we're talking about here. That light can be activated in Indian as well for pedestrians to cross the highway from the residential side to the recreation camper park side.
Okay. All right, so, yeah. I could see where that would be handy. There's several times, we're darting across the highway and waiting for, the traffic to clear. And so what this is doing, you're triggering it just to flash and let the traffic know that there's somebody there that wants to cross, and they'll slow down or stop or whatever is needed. So does that sound fair?
Correct.
That's what it sounds like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have another comment from Bruce. You guys might as well just stay there. Share the mic.
Yep. Bruce Jaffa, Moose Pass. Who are we talking to?
What's her name?
Who's our presenter?
Juan Lee from R&M Consultants.
Juan Lee.
You're with R&M?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with R&M, and we have Malia Walters too
Okay.
from Michael Baker on the line.
So you're speaking you're speaking for the borough, and I will preface this by saying I've been very involved with highway safety planning since the Parnell and Walker administration, and when Senator Sullivan helped institute a safety corridor that included Anchorage to Homer and Seward. We went through a lot of this. We asked for a lot of the data that you have compiled here, and I appreciate that. But what I am really surprised about, I learned about this meeting because I'm on a Seward media link, and saw that there was going to be a P&Z work session that included this. There was no notification of the Moose Pass community. And from what I can see through this entire 340 pages that I have skimmed through, you have ignored the Moose Pass community. You have spoken to Cooper Landing and Hope and Seward, rightly, but the Moose Pass community, which is spread along some 30 miles of the Seward Highway, has been ignored. I've spoken to City Council and said that, in my opinion, that the great things that Seward's doing in developing their commerce down here is going to wind up with a bottleneck of the Seward Highway. Now, there are other problems with DOT and the development of that highway, but safety is obviously one that we all want to see. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt unnecessarily, so improvements are absolutely warranted and appreciated. I understand the 5 E's that the state troopers present, and you've covered some of them. Education, engineering are certainly two critical portions of this. The collection of the data, like I said, we've talked about the problem in Moose Pass with the highway with DOT and tried to ask for the data that you seem to have easily acquired. So I appreciate that, and I'll dig into that further. First by asking 2 questions, you can answer them any way you want, but first, has there been an outreach to the emergency services system, which is the Moose Pass Volunteer Fire Company, and anticipating that is the outreach to the community? That has not happened. The second is, you said that if the Department of Transportation were going to take on a project, that you would not include that in this study. Well, there's a lingering mile 25.5 to 37 highway improvement project that exactly fits that bill. So does that mean nobody's working on that? So I guess those are 2 questions. And just again, I think the Moose Pass community deserves a little bit more attention than what you're giving it.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, if I can respond, I think I can address a couple of the concerns.
Of course.
Moose Pass Advisory Planning Commission, we are planning to go to you for a presentation on the 10th, so that's Thursday. The Kenai Borough has organized a couple rounds of these advisory planning commissions. We did some in the fall as well. So a couple of the meetings were canceled because there wasn't quorum. So I think Moose Pass, the first time, that might have been part of the issue. I can double check. But we've done a couple rounds of these planning commission work sessions. So I'm sorry if we missed you, but the borough had organized these, and potentially the timing of our last round might have coincided with a month or a meeting that didn't happen. But we're coming to you on the 10th, so that's Thursday, and I'll be presenting there. The
Excuse me, will that be in person?
No, we understand the borough has let us know that these are virtual advisory planning commission meetings.
We have full attendance. We usually have a quorum with living people.
Great. We are scheduled to be on your agenda on Thursday.
You are
the agenda.
You are on our agenda a year late. Yep.
sorry to change the subject here, but I will comment. This is Cindy Eklund, District 6 Assembly Member for the east side of the peninsula. And I agree that Moose Pass and the safety and Moose Pass with some of the DOT plans for there, which are still not really solidified, are a concern for anyone traveling down from the Y to do anything in Seward. But back to this straight little stretch there in Seward, you're discussing putting medians in the middle of our roads where we have turn lanes? How does that work?
So the recommendation or the countermeasure there at the intersection with Port Avenue includes raised medians and a pedestrian refuge island because of the high number of pedestrians in the area, including during the summer months.
I think they had an island there and they took it out the last time they paved. They had some sort of a curbs and with the stop sign up on it, and I think that's gone. So I'm not sure any of us would like medians down here in the icy situation where we just would be sliding into them. I mean, safety is number one, but I'm not sure that's a good thought.
Yeah.
Roundabout it.
Yeah, I like roundabout.
This is Carol, the chair. I'd also concur with Cindy's statement. I think our turn lanes provide a great deal of safety for traffic. And this Hemlock to Dairy Hill Lane includes our most dangerous intersection at this time and busiest intersection, which is Port Avenue, Phoenix, and the Seward Highway. And that's where our freight trucks go and cruise ship, everything. And we need those turn lanes for that industrial traffic as well as the normal traffic. So I think replacing that with a pedestrian refuge is not a good balance. I know it might be nice to have, but I think the benefits of those turn lanes far outweighs the advantages of those pedestrian refuges. Also, there is a proposal from Alaska Railroad to route that industrial traffic down an alternate route called the Freight Road. Is that it called? Freight Road? Freight Dock Road?
Yeah, along parallel tracks.
Right, parallel to the highway, but coming out at a very dangerous intersection at the Seward Highway and the Airport Road. This is where the speed limit is increased to 45 miles an hour. The turn lane disappears north of the airport intersection, and the railroad tracks are within 55 feet of the highway, probably a lot closer. I think only a regular size car can fit between the tracks, the sign, and the highway. Maybe a little tiny compact could squeeze in there too, but it's a very hazardous intersection that I think this safety plan needs to focus on very seriously, because that is in the plan. Council a long time ago approved of this plan, and it was recently presented before council. So we need to have your assistance in evaluating the safety of that intersection and that proposal. So I'd really like to see more focus on the existing really busy intersection, which is not going to get less busy even if industrial traffic is off at Port Avenue and the Seward Highway, and Airport Road and the Seward Highway. And then one other point, Juan, is that the plan often refers to pedestrians and bicycles, but we are seeing, and I assume borough-wide, we're seeing more motorized scooters, motorized bicycles, motorized, name it what you will, wheels. It's amazing how these kids can ride a wheel. But they're going quite fast, and they are using the pedestrian pathways that do not allow vehicles, because they're not really a vehicle, but they're not really pedestrians or regular bicycles. So that phenomenon is just growing so fast. It is epic how quickly these are being accepted by everybody. But I don't see the plans adjusting to the fact that these things can go 20 miles an hour and they're on a pedestrian pathway. So I'd like to have the plan address the safety and mitigation for those types of transportation.
Thank you. Those are excellent comments, and that's exactly why we're here. So if medians and pedestrian refuge islands do not make sense for your community in these locations, that is a great comment for us to consider for the final plan. So this is still in draft, so we will take your comments. And then, Carol, we can look at the other Airport Road intersection to see where that fell in terms of public comments, the crash data, and why it wasn't included in our corridor for recommendation.
It's a very new development, and that's
Okay.
why you probably won't have any data, because it's currently doesn't serve that amount of traffic or industrial traffic. We have a comment from Commissioner Pemberton.
I was just wondering, wouldn't it be better for the underpass and the current bike path to be shown more to people, advertised, put out there that it is there, so that people aren't always running out in the highway, because they do it all along? And rather than have directional signage or something from DOT showing them how to get down under instead of going across wherever they feel like it.
I agree with Commissioner Pemberton. Those signs that say pedestrian underpass appear and then they disappear. There's a couple of utility poles nearby, streetlights, and streetlight poles, and sometimes the signs are there and sometimes they're not, but you'd have to be pretty close to know that there even was $1 million underpass right there that could save your life. So more signs towards Port Avenue by the depot would help. Assemblyperson
And
Eklund.
that underpass is so close to that Port Avenue that the pedestrians should be pointed towards the underpass and not even try to cross at Port Avenue. I mean, there's really, unless you live across there, there's nothing really to go see over there for the tourists. So, yeah, more signage. And I think you've mentioned that, Juan, in your report, more signage for that area. So that's a must.
Yeah. I think one other comment that Carol made regarding the motorized bikes or one wheels or all the new transportation on sidewalks and pathways. That's a great comment, and I will make sure that we will include that, or at least address that in the plan. I think there is statewide legislation regarding the classes of those types of motorized bicycles or wheels or scooters.
Any other thoughts for Juan while we have her? I'd like to go back to way back when you're talking about, let's see, the evacuation routes. When we review our preliminary plats, we can make sure that there are right-of-ways through the subdivision process, that we have more continuity and connections. I know the fire department here has spoken against cul-de-sacs, which make it really difficult for fire response, but also for evacuation response. So we can kind of keep an eye on that. And then on communications, we have a Coast Guard cell tower over across the bay at SMIC that is on an erosional slope. And it's kind of ironic that the Coast Guard, which is responsible for emergencies, would have a cell tower that could be endangered. So I don't know if you're allowed to talk to them, but they might want to relocate to high ground. We have I think it's American Tower up on the hill in the evacuation safety zone. They might want to get their antenna up there instead. Just throw that in the mix. It might save a lot of lives.
That's a good comment. I think we'll let Brenda Alberg with KPB know about that one. She's the senior emergency management director. So.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Was it June?
One.
Sorry. This is Bruce Joppa again from Moose Pass. I've kind of reviewed what we have as far as, I'm the chair of the Moose Pass Advisory Planning Commission, and we were aware that there is a simple statement that you're on our agenda, but we have nothing there to describe it. And I would really like to get the word out to the community post haste that something of this weight is being discussed, and nobody in our area knows anything about it. So do you have this PowerPoint that you could send to me or send to the clerk that I could get, and I'll present a synopsis when I go home tonight. I'll present a synopsis.
Yeah, I can definitely do that, Bruce. Maybe Courtney can share your email with me, and then I can send you.
I think it'd be appropriate for the clerk to do it. I don't know if...
Yeah, we can, one, I think we can send Bruce the PowerPoint. Yeah.
It was on the city calendar. It was already.
The PowerPoint was on the Seward City calendar?
Well, I don't know that specific, but there's I don't know, the packet.
I have a 340-page packet.
But not that.
But not this PowerPoint.
Okay.
You can download the PowerPoint on the Laserfish, so it'll be on the website for anybody to look at.
That'd be
as
great.
well.
It's currently on the planning and zoning website.
And one, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm not against safety or safe practices, but I think just like tonight's discussion has brought up things that will help the engineers, I think the community of Moose Pass probably could offer some beneficial things as well if they're given a chance.
Yeah, I had a member.
Thank you, Bruce, for your comments.
Sorry, Juan. I had a member of the Moose Pass community talk to me about the sign right north of Moose Pass. The first sign says avalanche area, no stopping, and just past that to the north, there's a bus stop sign.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So those kind of things are really DOT or I don't know, maybe school district planning bus stopping or the borough planning roads that can get students out, not in an avalanche area. But that's kind of, I mean, not something that when you came to Seward and we put those little sticky things on the maps that we were aware of, but I'm sure you'll hear about it at Moose Pass on Thursday.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And I hope Moose Pass will address the Grant Lake Hydro Project intersection. A lot of big equipment going in and out on a dangerous curve, very narrow winding road, dangerous curve. Next to railroad tracks, it's another dangerous situation.
For the chair, if I might, the community of Moose Pass hopes that DOT will divide the project and do a sensible project north of Moose Pass and leave the central part of Moose Pass alone. And I think the Grant Lake Hydro might be on very shaky legs, if at all.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, Juan, we're going to thank you very much for your presentation and your responses. And we're going to take a break now and reconvene at 7 o'clock for our meeting. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Okay, let's take a break.
Thank you.
Do I have to bang the gavel?